Hi, so welcome to Rebel Road Career Stories, where I cover career stories from around the world. And today I've got Gerrit Ziljstra on the line with me. Hi, Gerrit, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. How are you?
Awesome, awesome. So you're dialing in from Montreal?
Yes. And as you can see, it's a clear blue sky here. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Amazing. So I'm doing a series of career stories, video stories, really to inspire people to take action and drive forward their own careers, but also to kind of empower them with tips and tricks on how to do so. So you're in Canada at the moment. You're working as a medical head in Novartis. But this is not your home, is it? This is not where you're from. Tell me a little, or tell our audience a little bit about how you ended up in this role.
So I'm Dutch from origin. That's where that's where home actually is. But nowadays I call home where the family is. So I'm happy to have my family here with me in Canada too. So how I ended up in this role was I was working before as a medical franchise head in Japan, also for Novartis, and that was on an expat basis. So with expats, you have a certain time for your contract. So when that contract was ending, I needed to find a different role, and that became to be in Canada. Intentionally, because I wanted to learn more about the culture in North America. Plus, it's a different disease area. I used to work all my career in respiratory, and so I transitioned to cardiovascular medicine, which is a different angle on two different fronts.
You're a man of the world, and like me, you like an adventure, I guess.
Absolutely, yes.
I think you've been in the pharma industry, was it 11, 12 years now, or?
Yeah, that's about it. So I think I moved into, my first pharma job was in 2011. No, 2007. So that's 11 years, yes.
Does it feel like it?
It feels like time is flying by. Days I recognize it when I look into the mirror because the gray hair starts to shine through. But
you can't see it from here, don't worry. Yeah. So how did you first get into the pharma industry then? How did you? Yeah. Did you join Novartis? Was that your first role, or?
No. So I was a pharmacy student, and there's three different career paths. So you can go into a public pharmacy, to a hospital pharmacy, or move into industry. And I knew that I wasn't a 9-to-5 person, so I knew that public pharmacy wasn't the thing for me. I was reflecting a little bit on going into hospital, or into industry, and so it was actually during my PhD time that I was able to do a course that was called Science to the Market, and I was working on a project that I thought could have some leeway for a new medicine, and so I was interested in starting up my own company at that time.
Oh, wow.
However, my spouse got pregnant, and so when you get your first child, your whole hormone balance just shifts from adventure to you want to provide more job security.
Yeah.
And so exactly. And so I thought of starting in a smaller company, and I thought that a small company would give you a lot of responsibility and work on different elements, so I could still get on the job experience as if I was running my own company. That was actually my first job, and that was with Disvar International in the Netherlands.
Wow. Yeah. So is pharma science something that you always wanted to do, or what did you even want to be when you grew up? I was talking to someone the other day about those childhood dreams. Was science something that you were always interested in, or?
So when I was young, I really wanted to be a pilot. That was my first career, interest. Yeah. And having gone through two types of tests on different days, I was found not to be, good enough to be a pilot. And so my backup plan was to be a doctor. So I really wanted to be a medical doctor. Because I like the science, I like biology, I like the chemistry. Science in general is of interest, and so I didn't get to be a medical doctor because ultimately, there was a lottery system to get into college in the Netherlands, and on 2 times I was on the wrong side of the coin. So the backup plan of being a medical doctor was to do pharmacy, which was in the same direction, and in there, you can go all different ways. So it's like this umbrella of opportunities that opened up.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to be. And it's basically, I didn't get to do the first thing. I didn't get to do the second thing. I did get to do the third thing, and I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah. And now, but I mean, who knew that you'd be able to have all these different opportunities, and, and taking you to Switzerland, to Japan, to Canada. So tell the viewers a little bit about this international career that you've had.
Yeah, so so when I was at This for International, at some point I wanted to do something different. I was getting a little bit tired of the exact science, and I was in a development role, which was all about exact science. And so I knew I wanted to do more with learning different communication skills, and so an opportunity opened up as MSL in the Netherlands for Novartis. And Novartis always has been a pull for me. My spouse used to work there, and I got to see what they do for corporate responsibility. And that was a big bonus because, I want to do the right thing for society. And so from MSL, having done that for 2 years, I was asked to go to Global in Basel. And lead the MSL activities on a global scale for respiratory. And in there, things unfolded. In the headquarters, it was so much more dynamic, so much more opportunities, that I went through a reorganization, that I was part of the work stream, and that ended up in the group that I was working in being dissolved. Became a medical affairs director. And from there, I think it was the network and the reputation that I had built that got me to Japan, and from there it got me to Canada. And I think there's 2 foundations to our reputation. I think the first one is control what you can control. Don't try to do more. Don't get involved in things that you can't control or you can change. And the second one is be a reliable business partner. And that means that you do things as you say you do them, and if you can't, you give a heads up in advance. And I think those are the 2 core critical capabilities for a career to unfold.
Yeah. So what do you know now that you wish you'd maybe known a little bit earlier in your career?
I wish I had known that I don't need to do everything. And you work in an industry, you work with a team, and so it's the reliability of or relying on a team that is able to help us move forward more quickly. So it's knowing the supporting network around you, knowing who to go to for which topics, and as I grew up, I was thinking that I needed to be a good employee. And I still can be, but I can be a richer employee if I know who to speak with for which topics, and get advice more than what I was used to do.
Yeah. Actually, I think when we spoke before, we're talking about building that kind of support network and building your support crew, and
yes.
around you. Have you got a good support network around you?
I think so. Absolutely, yes. And if there's things that I don't know, I'll just ask advice from others, and it's about trust. And I think the other element that we also spoke about is about vulnerability, which I think is a crucial element as well. We don't always need to be, in my case, the alpha male, and sometimes it's okay to not know everything, and just be open about this.
Yeah. I think that's definitely something I wish I had known earlier in my career, is actually you don't have to have all the answers. And, you know, especially when you're new to a role, you know, and you're taking a step up in your career, you're never going to know everything, you know, and that's, you know, we have an amazing capacity to learn and grow. But it's okay to put your hand up and and ask for a bit of support as well. So
Exactly. Yeah, and there's a coach, it's a famous coach, Marshall Goldsmith. He says, what got you here won't get you there. And that's absolutely right. And when you make career transitions, you know, there's things that we rely on from the past, you know, some ways of working that we're used to, but they may not necessarily work in a new situation.
yeah.
So it's about the ability to reinvent yourself a little bit as well. And this requires an open mind and that vulnerability.
Yeah, so I mean, so you went to Switzerland, but then it's from Switzerland to Japan. I mean, that must have been, you know, that's quite a massive transition. You moved the family across with you, you know. I mean, talk me through that kind of that transition.
So I'll talk you through the three transitions that I made, and the transition from Switzerland to Japan is one. But let me start with the Netherlands to Switzerland as the first transition. So that was one where we as a family thought, okay, we'll move into Switzerland. It's within Europe. We'll hop into a car and that's it. You know, we just pack our stuff here, unpack it there, and we're done. We're set. But on a work level, it was moving from an organization with few stakeholders to an organization with many different stakeholders that I didn't even know existed. And then what I underestimated, and what we as a family underestimated, was the cultural difference between the Netherlands and Switzerland. And so the Swiss, I think, they are nice people, but more closed. They want to have absolute adherence to certain rules and regulations, whereas the Dutch, I think, are a little bit more frivolic, and so that was
probably like the Kiwis, like the New Zealanders as well. There's probably quite.
But that was a culture change that I really underestimated, and I shouldn't have done. So the second one, the move from Switzerland to Japan, was a much larger one for us as a family. We knew that it would be a very different country, very different culture. So we spent significant time to, first of all, make the decision to say yes to Japan. And I think because we did spend that time on understanding culture, understanding the role, understanding where we went potentially come to live, speaking with different people who made that step as well to Japan, I think that helped us for a much easier and smooth transition. And Japan being so different was like this huge adventure for us as a family, that we just we welcomed it with open arms, basically. And so that was the change from Switzerland to Japan. It was a very different one, but because we prepared, it didn't feel like a very different one. We knew what to expect, basically.
Yeah.
And then the transition from Japan to Canada was an interesting one too. Canada is North America, but European is what people always had said. And we didn't give ourselves much time for that transition, basically because there wasn't that much time given to us for that transition. And so we just thought, okay, we'll hop into a new European city. And I think that change caught us a little bit off guard as well, because the culture still is very North American, which is different and distinct from Europe, or I have to say the Netherlands. And so it's always, I think, as part of feedback, is if you're planning a career change or if you're anticipating a career change, do your research on culture and speak with people who made that change from your country to that other country, so that you can relate to what the changes mean for culture. And I think that's the most important piece of advice that I can give.
Yeah. And I think that's it. We were talking again about, making career changes, even internally within an organization, that we don't often appreciate the full complexities of, the cultural, the learning, the impact on you, on the family. There's so much going on that to tackle, really, isn't there?
Absolutely, and I think as I'm the sole breadwinner for the family, So that means that I need to absorb the changes in job, as well as I need to be on the lookout for changes in the family. And with that, sole breadwinner story comes an extra feeling of responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so tell me, you've had some adventures already in Canada. Have you been sort of prioritizing? Obviously with such a big change in family life and work life, have you been prioritizing time for life and adventures, or how do you get that kind of work life working together?
That's always challenging, and especially when you make a change in country and organization. Even though it's the same larger organization, it's still Novartis. Still, it's a different country organization, and every department, every group, every country will have its own culture and identity, and so I think the biggest pitfall for any person making that change is to spend too much time at work and spend too much responsibility at work. Yeah. And I've made myself guilty of this as well. So I remember just a couple of weeks ago that I really needed a break. So me and my family went on an RV trip through Canada. But it's really important, as you say, to pay attention to your mental health, to your physical health. I think they go hand in hand. And sometimes that work be for what it is.
Yeah. And actually now knowing that, advice for other people who are maybe moving up into a new leadership role. I mean, what advice would you give them on kind of how to look after your own mental health and well-being?
Work doesn't define who you are. I think it's you who defines who you are. And when you make a change, it's not stay stuck to what happened with you in the past, but have an open mind to what is helping you for the future. And I think what is crucial for anybody is to have a real good sense of self-awareness. So which triggers do you have that cause pain? Which triggers do you have that cause happiness? Which triggers do you have to cause anxiety? And see them coming, soon enough to be able to make, subtle changes in how you work and operate. And just, the change from Japan to Canada. In Japan, it was very much a walking city in Tokyo. In Canada, it's very much a car culture. So the amount of physical activity I get on a day-to-day just by walking is way less in Canada. So I know I need to adjust my fitness level by doing more sports outside of work.
Yeah, it's building in that time, isn't it? It's almost it's prioritizing that time, especially when we're going through growth and change. It's easy to kind of get pulled into just all your effort being on learning and adapting and work, but it's almost as important to be building in that time for your health and well-being and doing things in life outside of work during that period.
Yeah, my learning is that it feels like a paradox, because when you start a new role, you're really tired in the beginning because you need to get to know new people, you need to get to know new science, you need to understand the culture, you need to know how things are working in terms of taxes. Where do you get your groceries? What do you get where? So all of these things cost a lot of energy. And the funny thing is that because you get tired, you want to rest a little bit more. But I think if you invest in actually doing a bit more sports and reading up maybe, but paying more special time for yourself and prioritizing this, especially in the beginning of these career steps, I think is more important than just to give everything for work and so that's what I think is the paradox. You get tired, you want to rest, but in reality, you need to invest time in your health.
Yeah. I know that's the thing, is that we we want to rest, but I think a lot of the time when you're going through a big change and transition, it's you're mentally fatigued,
Yes.
but actually, physically, going out that's going out for a walk with the family, or a jog, or or going to the gym. Actually there's so much energy that can be, and actually, to be honest, I think that's when I seem to solve all my challenges, and when I have my most creative ideas. It's when I'm as far away from work as possible, doing something active in the hills, or so some more
Exactly.
time outdoors.
No, but it's absolutely right. And I think, moving from country to country, it's also going through the experience with your family. So go on the adventure trips with your family. I think that's really important to do, because then you can share and relate to you go through the same challenges on a larger scale. So it allows you to be able to speak about that as well, and how you experience this as a family.
Yeah, and I guess it comes back to why you're doing it. Why you're doing it from a work perspective, from a leadership perspective, but why are you doing this from from a personal perspective as well? What this experience can give you.
Yeah, and for me, that's the longer term investment. I think I don't believe in individual nations. Yes, I know they exist, but what I really believe in, if you want to build a sustainable planet, you need to have a much wider cultural awareness and sensitivity. And I think for leaders for the future, so it's an investment for my family,
Yeah.
leaders for the future need to know about the differences in culture, etc.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in the same place, and what this really did with me was opening up to and being confronted with my own beliefs as a person, and it created a much more open mindset.
Yeah.
So I hope to give that to my children as well, and that they'll benefit from this on the longer run. I think what is in it for me is I like my challenges, and so if I don't get a new challenge, I tend to get bored. Then I know I'm not at my best. So for me, this is also a way, and that's another paradox. Because of this unrest in me, I need to go through these changes as well.
Yeah. So keep challenging yourself.
Yes.
So what you said something really interesting before about self-awareness is really important, and I 100% agree. And I think getting to know who you are, your strengths, your weaknesses, your derailers. But one of the things I get asked a lot about is how do I discover who I am as a leader? So people ask me, how do I find my leadership voice? What would you say to someone who's maybe trying to find their leadership identity?
I think that's a difficult question. So I've been reflecting on this a lot as well. And I think what ultimately is really helpful for being a leader is just to be yourself. And I think that's the most important piece of advice that I can give. And then the next question is, how do you know who you are?
Yeah.
I think you don't know who you are for a long time, and I don't think we'll ever get to know ourselves really that well. Maybe that sounds a little bit naive, but on a day-to-day basis, I'm being confronted with who I am, and I wonder, is this who I am, or who I should be? But I feel that if I start to play a role as a leader, you can only do that for a certain amount of time, because it's stopping you from who you are and identifying who you are. And for me, what I get a lot of energy from is the self-reflection on decisions I need to make, topics that I need to discuss. But in the end, it's that time for your self-reflection, and so for this, I would recommend everybody to ask feedback, ask for how do others perceive yourself, go through different tests, know your derailers, but it's about the self-wisdom. I think that's the key to unlocking who you are as a leader. And you have to go through different experiences, and there's things as a leader that I did wrong, that I made wrong decisions, or made wrong steps. There's other things that I'm really proud of, and it's okay to make mistakes, but you need to have the courage to also admit to your mistakes. I think that's really the most important element of identifying who you are as a leader. And the other part is, leaders don't need to know everything. You have a team around you, you lead a team that you need to rely on. And so that's the piece of advice that I can give.
Yeah. I think I see more and more now, because we're so busy, you know, we're really connected, you know. I see so many, you know, so not even just leaders, but so many people who are, you know, you can have email or social media from the moment you wake through to just before your head hits the pillow. So we're so connected and busy that I feel, and I have a lot of people say, I don't know who I am, or I don't know what I'm passionate about, and I think it's because they don't have time away from that busyness, you know. So I think more than ever, it's important to have that protected self-reflection time away from technology and work, just to sit with your thoughts, you know, and to figure
I
it
think
all
that, but you hit a really good point there, and I think you know, what I've experienced over time is that time just condenses. Everything seems to happen more quickly.
Yeah.
You know, the day somebody, you know, says something in some part of the world, it's the same second it's on Twitter.
Yeah.
And so the ability to get a lot of information is much more fast than it used to be. And it started with email. Remember, before email, we had faxes. And
You had to be near
technology
the
just
fax
allowed
machine.
us to be in a way connected more, but I think the social media connection is a superficial one.
Yeah.
And so you really need to invest in meeting people physically. You know, you need to look at people in the eye and just have, you know, a drink in a bar, have a coffee, a lunch, or a dinner, but really pay attention to real life people. If you start to lead your life on social media, I think it creates a superficial layer of who we really are. And I think those moments of, you know, having a barbecue with friends. I was with friends yesterday, had a barbecue. I think those are really good moments that we need to keep going, and maybe spend a bit less time on social media.
Definitely, and you know, I work with a lot of people who say that they're feeling burnt out, you know, and it comes back to a lot around that being overly connected, and you know, and actually stepping away from email and having real connections, having a connection with themselves, the time with themselves, and a connection with real people, you know. So
Absolutely. And I've had the same experience in Japan. We posted a lot of pictures on Facebook on you know, the adventure that we were going through with our family, but you know, unconsciously you make the best pictures, you put the nicest pictures on Facebook.
yeah.
And so when we left Japan, we saw friends still doing this, and intentionally we stepped away from this. So we are doing way less on Facebook now, and I have to say it isn't hurting us. I think
No.
it's even for the better.
No.
But that's absolutely right. I think life isn't playing on social media. Life is, you know, if you go out for a walk somewhere, you meet a random stranger and you have a nice conversation. I think happiness lies in those moments.
Yeah, no, and that it's interesting. You said about you had a barbecue yesterday. I was with friends last weekend, and it was really nice just to all chat about different things that were going on in our lives, you know, and things that, you know, maybe in your bubble feel huge, you know, feel really overwhelming, things that are going on, but when you share them with friends and your connection, that just even by sharing it, you know, and supporting each other, that actually you get so much greater perspective, and it's just like that weight is off your shoulders, isn't it, you know? But
that is focusing on yourself. But I also think if you don't have the energy to have an open mind to the people you're meeting and be able to be a friend to them as well, because they also need to share where they are in their life, what is happening. I think as a person you're not doing enough too. So I think it's really important, as we had discussed already, to focus on our well-being and on energy levels, because it helps us to be, you know, the friend to people who we want to be, and also have an open mind to, you know, feedback from others.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me, before we finish up, tell me maybe some of the hot tips, or some of the things that you think that the viewers would benefit from knowing about, you know, how they can drive forward their career.
I think it's so the best tip that I can give is know where you get your energy from. So know what things you like, and have that absolutely clearly in mind, because we are being guided by beliefs our parents have in who we should be, beliefs friends have who we should be, but in the end we know best as to the things that we really like, and pursue that energy, go with where that flow is.
Yeah.
So I like to help people, I like to achieve, and that's where I get my energy from, and that I think makes me enjoy my job, get energy from it. And so the best tip that I can give is have a clear understanding of where your energy is coming from.
Yeah.
So really invest into what gives meaning to your life. Invest time in finding your purpose. So there's great books out there. Nick Gregg is somebody who I can recommend. He has a book on finding my purpose. Go through the exercise, speak with people, speak with friends. But that I think is number one. The second one is surround you with a network, people you can learn from. And I have to say, I've had good bosses, I've had less good bosses, but everybody was able to teach me something. There's an informal network that I have within the company and outside the company as well of people I can reach out to and speak with. And in every conversation there's some kind of pearl of wisdom. So keep an open mind as to how other people are trying to help you, because they may see things that you are not yet seeing. So I think that network is really important. And then the third tip is careers don't happen because of your intelligence. They don't happen because of your emotional qualities. They happen largely because of luck, and opportunities fly by almost every day. So keep an open mind to the opportunities, and sometimes you just need to take the jump in the deep. And I think you can relate to the jump in the deep. Opportunities come and you need to grab them. So those are the hot tips.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That be curious, use your network, and grab the opportunities. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And know what you stand for and what you would like.
Yeah, no, awesome. No, and so thank you so much for being one of my career stories. And we got to know each other through our virtual network and stayed in contact, and just following your career over the years. So yeah, thank you for being one of my career stories, and thank you to the viewers for watching. Cheers.